Let's welcome our main speaker, Don N.
My name's Don Newcomb. I'm an alcoholic. Thank Jack for taking the responsibility of what I tell you tonight. There's a number of you in here that I've known for some time. It's good to see Arlie. It's good to be sober. It's good to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I always feel a little spiritual when I'm sitting at home and I'm about 5 minutes away from getting ready to leave the house to go to my commitment. Because AA comes first, and so my house has to freeze and make room for Daddy and husband because he's going to go to a commitment. And so I asked my wife, because, you know, this gray is mine. I'm about as old as you think I am. And I asked my wife, I said, would you wake me up at 15 after? I'm laying down at 6. I want to be up at 15 after. And I can be in a dead sleep in 2 minutes. She woke me up at 20 after. And I rolled off that bed and I said, I'm going to be late. God's got the greatest sense of humor in the world. He crowded up the whole San Diego freeway to make me almost late. Had nothing to do with my wife. But I'm glad to be here. I want you to know that keeping commitment is that important to me. I've been blessed. My sobriety date is the 13th of June, 1972. I don't particularly know why I've been singled out. I suppose because I've been doing what they taught me to do in the beginning. I still do it, and therefore it works. I lost a very, very dear friend this past week, a very young man. You know, and he just went in for a nickel and dime surgery and come out of it dead. Oh, you don't know. You know, you think you got a handle on this thing. You think tomorrow is all right. I love it when I hear myself saying, I don't feel like it now, but I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. I will do it. I may, if not tomorrow, at least next week. You know. And I'm guilty of that. I'm born and raised in Bakersfield. That's why I talk a little different than some of you. It's not country. It's just Bakersfield. They have. They give Merle Haggard credit for singing special. He's from Bakersfield. That's the only reason he's got that sound. If I could put a tune together and, well, anyway, we won't do that to you. I hate to get thrown out. Get 86 from an AA meeting sober. But I love my whiskey. I love Jack Daniels and Canadian Club and vodka and Johnson & Johnson, Blue Cross and Menden's if necessary. I set out at a young age. I started drinking probably 12, 13 years of age. You do that in Bakersfield. It's expected of you. I know it's expected because everybody around you is doing that. And if you don't work, the only way you can get your booze is to steal. And so if you're going to be a thief, I believe in trying to be a real good one. I worked on burglary for some time, and I realized after a few defaults that I was afraid of the dark. And I found out I was afraid of the dark, drunk or sober. It didn't make any difference. And the other thing I don't like is I don't like cockroaches. And if you're in an attic in Bakersfield in the hot summer, you're not alone. If you lay there a few minutes, they'll move you across. So I gave up the burglary. I decided to become an armed robber. Now, to be an armed robber, your hands aren't supposed to shake. And so that's why I drink when I'm being an armed robber. I don't want my hands to shake. I have a very heavy gun in the hands of a very skinny little boy. I'm 16 years old and I'm in Oildale. And I love to say Oildale. Yeah, if you ain't never been there, you wouldn't give a damn, but anyway. And I'm going to rob this place. I was born in 1935, and that makes me 67. And so I'm through an era of time when the gangsters were gangsters. You know, they were hard running and hard shooting, and the Bonnies and Clydes and all of Dillinger. And so I really watched those things with a great deal of joy and passion. No, I didn't watch them. I listened to them. We didn't have television. Other people had it. I don't want you to think I'm that old. And so the night I decided to change my career, we were changing my career over probably a couple of six-packs of Ole or whatever, and in Oildale. We couldn't get a getaway car, so we figured we'd use our feet. The gun that's going to be given to me is kind of a heavy gun, and I can tell right away it moves around a lot. And so I got myself a little bit of vodka to roll down behind my beer, because I'm not alcoholic and I don't need to drink to rob. I need to get the hand steady, because I'm going into the back of a beer bar that are full of some very big, ugly men. They work in the oil fields. And I'm going to have to rob one of those big, ugly men. If he sees my hand shaking, he's liable to take that thing away from me and spank me. I'm 16 years old and I weigh 110 pounds with all my clothes on. I picked up 3 crime partners. They told me that they could see better if they was about 2 blocks away. So I am too a people pleaser. I said, of course you can. Yeah, there we are. And so I approached my crime. I had taken all the lint out of my pocket. I went through my wallet, made sure I didn't have anything in it. And then I went in my pockets and made sure there wasn't anything that they could use for a trace of evidence to track me. This is the back of a beer bar. This is the toilet in the back of the beer bar that my great armed robbery is going to take place. But it's my first armed robbery, and I want it to be good. And I drank some more, and by the time I got there and I got my crime partners stitched out where they needed to be, I realized I forgot my mask. I'd procrastinated on that, and I decided, hell, how many people really know me in that town anyway? I was born there, but they don't really know me. I went into that toilet, and I told him with a voice that broke about midway in to get your hands up with a squeak. I mean, I used to work hard at keeping my voice down low. Used to shave my chest, armpits, anywhere there might be hair growing that there wasn't. See, they'd been locking me up since I was 9 years old, and so you go into reform schools, there's a few things you have to learn quick. Number one, it's a handicap to be pretty. Boy or not. A pretty boy is really a defect of character in prison, unless you one of them funny boys. So at the age of 16, I'd already spent an awful lot of time being a man. And you got to look like a man, so you shave, well, anyway. If you've been there, you have. If you didn't, you don't even know why I'm talking about. And I stepped in there and told him and gave him that command, and he just gave me full control. It's a big man. He was a big, ugly man. I said, damn. I don't even have a bullet in the chamber, for Christ's sake. I don't want to hurt anybody, so I didn't want to put one in there. And he stopped and he gave me his money, and he started crying about it's all the money he had to his name. And I stopped and listened. And that's also that's a handicap on your job. You'll do better if you don't stop and listen. You're supposed to be in a hurry. His story was so sad, I reached in his wallet and gave him back $5 of his own money. And that's people pleasing. I didn't know that was people pleasing until I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I wanted to tell you all that little thing because I wanted you to let you know what my childhood was like and why I needed all the drinks that I had. I've drank ever since I had my first drink, anytime I could get it. And you know, in prison you don't always get to get a good drink, so you got to make some. And so I drank things that people ain't supposed to drink. But we didn't pay attention to that. That don't mean you're an alcoholic, just means there ain't no pruno on the yard. If there ain't no pruno on the yard, you just drink a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Damn little bit. But it works. Alcoholics Anonymous in prison is a place to go seek pretty girls. Go smell perfume. Look at some legs that ain't got no hair on them, because boys in there are ugly. And I'd made that judgment about being a man. I decided, you know, them other boys, they just stay away from me. I'm bad news. I give them a pretty bad time. And in fact, I picked on people who had defects of character as I judged them. In order to look powerful and strong in there, I made sure they looked weak. And, you know, people will do that. They will stand on you to get higher in this world. In 1970, I walked out of that last prison I was in, I hope. I had spent 21 out of 26 years locked up. Obviously, I never got very good at it as an armed robber. But I hung in there and kept trying. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous in Los Angeles because some people had been coming on a panel to the prison that I was coming out of. And they had invited me to come down to the San Fernando Valley area, a meeting called SHOOP. It was 1970, 5th of June. I don't know what I had in my mind of what AA was, but it was pretty obvious there wasn't any part of it I could really practice. I looked at them steps in prison. You know, you go to meetings in there because you get a few extra privileges. There was an old boy who was a pretty hard convict back in the early 50s, and now I'm watching him, and he's going to meetings up there in this prison there in late 60s, and he's dropped his image. I mean, he doesn't care that people see him going to meetings. And he wasn't the kind of a guy that you go up and make mockery of unless you're ready to fight him, because, you know, he's a pretty good old fighter. And he was quite a gangster up behind the walls. He carried himself strong. And I'm watching him go across this yard to these stupid meetings. And he'd say things like, Alcoholics Anonymous was giving him a new way of looking. I thought, damn, I've never seen a powerful man break down right in front of me. But he was doing it. And I went over there to see what was breaking Johnny down. And they had a bunch of ugly women in there. You got to understand now, when you're in prison for a long time, it's just like being in a bar at 2 in the morning. There really ain't no more ugly women, you know. You know? They all look good. And that goes away, of course, when you get sober, or it goes away when you come out of prison. But I found an interesting thing. At 67 years of age, sober, over 30 years, there ain't no ugly women. They all just look so good. As long as you're properly cut and split, it's all right with me. You know, body temperature helps. If there's any kind of warmth, body temperature does help. So it's 1970, and it's Ohio Street, and they got this idiot over there, a fellow named Clancy, and he looks like something Hitler might have thrown out for him. Hitler would have thrown him out because he was so abusive. And everybody was listening to him, and they all, I don't know why. He wasn't that big of a man. I mean, you know, whatever. But he'd yell and they'd listen. And he'd have them doing stupid things. And they invited me to go over and visit this place where they did stupid things. Yeah. Now, Alcoholics Anonymous in Ohio Street in 1970 was full of nice people. They were just grinning. Hi, how are you? I'm not in the habit of answering those kind of questions. They're a little personal. What's your name is I feel it's a violation of our traditions. This is an anonymous. You don't need my name. And so I would answer with things, if you were the right, look weak enough to me, I'd answer with things like, what's your name? I'd say A35888. Do you have a sponsor? Your mother. Was with her last night working steps. Well, in that group, in that particular year, there was a lot of weak men in that group in that particular year. They're probably stronger now, and were probably stronger before that year. But the minute you say something like that to them, they run to their sponsor. Little sissy tattletale. I did 7 years and 3 months in the penitentiary, and I did 2.5, and I did 3, and I did 2, and I did 6 in reform school before I even got warmed up to go to the prison. And the one thing I learned is you don't tell nobody nothing. You don't talk. You just shut up. And it's, who's your sponsor? And it's your mama. And there they are. You see them, just a straight line to the back of the room. And you can tell they're going to the old-timer. The old-timers are the one back there watching everybody like butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. They like to walk up to you and, hi, how are you? And stare in your eyes until you answer back. And, you know, I'm not an eye contact man. If you read about jungle philosophy, if you're going to be around tigers, don't watch them in the eye. Turn your head a little to the side. Same thing in prison. People read your mail too quick if you're looking in their eyes. And I would say cute things. And they would go over and they'd see if I had a sponsor, and of course I didn't have. And they would come by and they'd get somebody like Marv R., who was big, kind of ugly, and they'd ask him to go talk to me. And I kind of liked Marv a little bit. He'd been in prison once. You know, that was good criteria. I like most everybody if they'd been in prison once. If they weren't black, and if they weren't Mexican, and if they weren't homosexual, I liked them a little bit. So I had all these, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend anybody, but that's what I brought to the door with me. And you know, that's the hardest thing in the world, to fit into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I don't care where you sit. One of them that I select is going to be there. And I'm taking the attitude about, damn, now what do I do? The sissy boys sitting in that seat there, they want me to take that seat. I don't take that seat. I look around till I find a seat with 2 persons. And I put my keys between the 2 persons. Because if I'm going to stand there and do this ridiculous Lord's Prayer crap, I mean, number one, I don't like holding a man's hand, period. They got men in that group that walk by, the same man shake your same hand 3 times. Hi, how are you? Don't you remember I answered you a few minutes ago? Jesus Christ. And my answer is always the same. Fine, fine. Newcomer's prayer. How are you? Fine. Oh, you're fine. No, that's the way I clean the barrel of a gun that way. Only I'm not I'm socially suicidal. My thought was to go out on 19th and Chester with a machine gun and just open up. And I thought that was macho. I didn't realize it's just another form of suicide. That probably wasn't important to any of you. Boy, it sure meant a lot to me. I went out and drank 2 more times because I started chasing the women. When you chase the women in Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in the Pacific Group in West LA, and they've all been brainwashed, you don't catch. You just spend your time chasing. And it gets real depressing. Hurts your feelings. And I don't know about you, but if I don't get my feelings soothed after they're hurt, somebody gets hurt. I'm not that nice of a man. I do believe in equal punishment. I believe if I hurt you bad enough, you won't come back and hurt me again. But AA frowns on that. They don't want you hitting their sponsors. They don't want you running over people in the parking lot. No matter how long they stand there and you're blowing your horn at them. And I think there's a limit. I think you ought to have a license to just run over the damn folks. They convicted that woman of murder back east. She didn't try to kill him. She just got stuck in one turn, you know, and went around. I'd have cut her free in a heartbeat. So 3 drunks later, I went out and found a very interesting thing. When I drink, I don't seem to have any control over what I do. And when I drink, I seem to have an awful lot more to drink. I caught the woman of my life. We had about 6 months together. When I walked back into Alcoholics Anonymous, it was this Tuesday night, Ohio Street. Coffee break had just finished. The guy at the door was a one-eyed Mexican named Ramon Pena. I met him a year earlier. It isn't that I'm prejudiced, just that they tried to kill me in reform school. So I'm a little sensitive and a little nervous about it. And he's standing there at the door, and when I walked in, he said, "Hey, vato, how you doing, man?" And his Spanish was about that bad. He was from El Paso, Texas. And I looked him right, he only had one eye. I looked him in the one eye and I said, "Fine." He said, "Bullshit." There began a journey. If you'd have asked me to make a list of my defects of character, I'd have handed you a blank piece of paper. I did not believe I had any. I had a justification for every way I've ever acted. My attitude, certainly y'all created it, and I live with it. You know, they locked me up when I'm 9. I got well educated by the time I was 16. You walk into meeting Alcoholics Anonymous, and somebody walks up and they stick their hand out and you ignore it, they're going to run back there and tell that old timer. I call the old timer the AA police. Yeah. You call them, refer to their mama, and they're back there, and then they come over, "Well, we don't do things like that here." Damn, I'm sure you don't. And then I fooled around, and I got me one of those sponsors, and that's like picking up a warden. God damn, I didn't get nasty enough early enough. I'm losing my audience. Wait a minute, I got some farm stories I haven't even told yet. So there I was. Oh, I'll keep it any way it comes out, darling. It's obvious that I'm not going to fit in this program. They want me to do the steps. They got a step in there that says you're supposed to tell everything. I worked too long not telling anything. But I've gotten drunk 3 different times sitting out here trying to do it my way. I got a big ugly man, I called him sponsor, his name was Keith. He started laying these steps out for me, and they meant nothing. I didn't understand them, I didn't know what they were trying to get out of me, I didn't know. All I knew was if I just make them think I'm doing this, and go to this place that they go every weekend, and go to these meetings every night, and go over here and sit in these stupid cafes while they sing some kind of stupid happy birthday to some idiot that's managed to not drink for a year, for Christ's sake. That's a full-grown man sitting there, tears running down his eyes because a crowd of people is singing happy birthday to. Be a man. Stand, shove that thing in their face, baby. Then about 11 months and 4 weeks go by, and 6 days, and I'm sitting in that restaurant, and I got that big football player, ex-football player, sitting in the booth with me. I can't get out. Didn't want to get out by then. I've been saying hi and hello and shaking your stupid hands for a year. I've been going to that damn yard. I've been playing that damn softball. I've been picking up that damn dog poop. I did things there I'd never have done in any penitentiary under any circumstances. And never understand why I give that man that kind of power over me. And they told me to leave the ladies alone. Damn. I left them alone. I did it for 7-3. I did it for 3, 2.5, 2. I need mine. I got mine. 5 years later, one child, I found out why they wanted me to leave it alone. It almost killed me. And I quit. That was it. If I can do 7-3 with just me and my own imagination, whatever that means. Certainly I can lay around these AA rooms and leave the ladies alone. And I'm awful busy. Oh, you've heard me when I was really bad, though. I'm much cleaner now. The people were nice. I run with that damn Mexican. They ended up making me drive. He had one eye and he couldn't drive his car. His sponsor took his license away from him. No, he didn't take his license away from him. He took his privilege to get a license away from him. And then he looked around and he picked the biggest redneck in the yard and told me that I was assigned getting him to meetings. And what happens when you're riding in a car with somebody and it's so quiet? I can't stand that kind of quiet. You make a mistake of saying something. And the next thing you know, you're in that contest. Oh, really? How many did you serve? Well, how many did you serve? How many did you kill? How many did you kill? How many did you do? How many did you do? And the next thing you know, you're keeping up in this contest and you've told every secret you ever had. But I never told on any of my crime partners. Just me. 11 years later, I stood over this man's bed because he had liver cancer. And I'd been going to meetings with him for 11 years, and I'd been driving him, and we had gotten real close. He used to tell me I speak Spanish like a Chinaman. I hope that doesn't offend any Chinaman. Mine's jailhouse Spanish. But I looked at this man laying in that bed, and I got to say goodbye to him because he's dying. And he was a beautiful man. What a beautiful man he come out to be. Y'all just took him and rebuilt him and molded him. You got them wine sores off of him, put that double-breasted suit on him. He'd stand up there and talk, and people would get tears in their eyes. And I leaned down to say goodbye to him. I kissed him on his face, and I said, I love you, Vato. He said, I love you, too. And I lost a dear friend. And my defects of character first had to show up, then they had to be identified, and then something had to come along to help me had to change them. And it happened in that area between the homosexuals. It happened that way with the women that I always wanted to control women. I believe violence is the best control in the world for women. And all of it happened. All of it happened sober. And it happened in such a way as where I didn't get thrown away. I didn't get thrown out. I didn't get drunk because I'm going to people and I'm telling them, I don't know, what in the hell am I feeling? And they would explain to me what I'm feeling. I did the steps. I got that commitment done. You know, once you do a 4th step and you got the felonies behind you that I have, that's a full-time commitment. If that guy gets mad at me, he's got evidence now that can put me down for a long time. I relaxed a lot after the 7th year. Not entirely. There's a couple in there that just don't go away. You know? But I was so young. And then you're sponsoring people, because in my group, if somebody walks up and asks you to sponsor them, you got to say yes. You ain't got no choice, because they're going to run to the old-timer. He turned me down. He said he wouldn't sponsor me. And they're going to run over here, and they're going to run to your sponsor, and he's going to come over, and he's going to address you in a loud voice in front of everyone. And so, in my case, it just got easier to say yes. John Baruti would come floating across the Wednesday night meeting. We got probably 900 there now, but there was at least 400 or 500, 300 in there. And Johnny, when he walked, he floated. Don, I need a sponsor. And I'm saying, what in the hell am I going to do with this, man? He's got pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization I don't approve of. And I'm an old farm boy. You got to go to any lengths to offend me. And he said, I need a sponsor. And I said, sure, Johnny, I'll sponsor you. You call me every day. First day you miss, get another sponsor. Went home, got on my knees. For the first time, I really said a sincere prayer. God, let him miss. He didn't miss. But you know, it's a very interesting thing. I found out real soon that Johnny's sexual preferences are none of my business. That's not what he come to me for. He didn't need any answers in that area. He was doing just fine. He come to me to find out how he could stay sober and still live out there amongst all them people. It's hard out there. Daily living's got a lot of blows in it. Got a lot of hard knocks in it. 5.5 years went by and we found out Johnny had AIDS and he didn't know it. And now I got to walk him to his grave. And I'm going to tell you something. When we got to his grave, I lost a friend I'd grown to love dearly. Everything that stood between you and I was left and taken away from me as the time went by, either by sponsorship or by the steps or by just asking my sponsor, what the hell do I do? What am I going to do, you know? I divorced that woman at 5 years of sobriety. I met another woman. She's a different disease. She's Catholic. There's a couple of things I don't have. One is I don't have the willingness to go any length of time without a woman. I'd gone too long, too many times. She come in with her little game, and it turned out she'd practiced the principles in all her affairs. What that means to you, but I know what it means to me. And we had about 8.5-year engagement where I was not allowed the privileges of the bedroom. Yeah. I could hear strange sounds in the middle of the night all the way from Bakersfield. Daddy. But I knew that my defects of character had to be left dormant. That if I brought them out, I'd probably drink over them. And then we stood over here at St. Mark's, and they threw some water in my face, slapped me upside the head, and made me one of them. In my home tonight is that same woman, and she woke me up 5 minutes late. And there's an 11-year-old boy in that room named Robert. He's a beautiful boy. You see, I never was lie. I couldn't handle this hugging and kissing and all this crap, men hugging each other, kissing their cheeks and holding hands. You had to teach me that real slow. And in that house also is another little old boy that he's 9 years old. And then there's my baby boy who's 7 years old. His name is Kevin. And I'm the teacher of the homeschool in that house. I'm not the primary teacher. Of course not. Because you see, when you're the teacher, you become the student, and I have no education. So now I'm getting an education by teaching my children. And I teach my children how to love each other. I teach my boys that I can hug them and kiss them. They don't ever have to question what they're feeling and what they're sensing. But more important than anything, I don't have to question what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing. You taught me to do that. And some of you that taught me to do that were Mexican, and some of you were blacks, and some of you was homosexuals, and some of you were people that we were just not fit to be together. No way could we be in this room together. But this guy's got a great sense of humor. And the God that I could never have, I found underneath a car. I was working under a car, and the jack was collapsed, and the brake rotor was open bare, and it come down on my forehead. And Jack will tell you that a brake rotor, when it's attached to an '84 Dodge Caravan, is heavy. And so I had a bad day that month. But they rebuilt this thing. They put a bunch of titanium in there. My home group, the people I'd been around all those years, I was 25 years sober, and they surrounded me. And they paid my bills, and they took care of my family, and they took care of my children. And in my home, when we lay down to go to bed, we all lay in the same bed. And I was told I could never work again. So I got retirement from the union. I got retirement from Social Security, early disability. And then I went out in my backyard. I'm a building engineer. I climb up in ceilings and work on electrical, and a little bit of air conditioning, a little bit of plumbing. If I can't fix it, I mess it up good enough where you got to call somebody in, make it look like I fixed it. Now, if there's anybody from my company in here, that's a lie. I don't believe it. And I'd go in my backyard, and I'd climb that 6-foot ladder, and I'd get down. I'd go out there, and I'd dig up that trench where the sewer line was, and I'd put it back in. It took me months to get strong enough to where I could go back to work part-time. And I got back to work part-time. Not enough money for a family of 5. And then I had a little problem with a doctor. He said I had something wrong with my prostate. Well, I never played any funny games. I don't know why we'd be picking at that. Turned out I had cancer in my prostate. Now, when somebody tells you you got cancer in your prostate, it kind of upsets you. And when I'm upset, I call my sponsor. Now, my sponsor is this bald-headed fellow that I talked about earlier. I got him now after my 12th year of sobriety, this fellow Clancy. And I called him and I told him they told me I got cancer in my prostate. He asked me what my options were, and I explained to him, and he said, Chuck tried that and he died. Why don't you just have him cut it out? Never dawned on me to ask him, did you have yours cut out? There's something about the safety and the blessing of a God in this life of ours, and there is a God in this life of ours, certainly a power greater than you and I, and we keep that in mind so we don't become too powerful. There's something about that even my sponsor, who may not have ever had that, he is not going to lead me down the wrong road. And they went in there and they cut that out, but it knocked me out of work again. And I got a big hole in my belly. I got so many scars on my wife said we should have a party and have our friends come over and play connect the dots. Yeah. And I learned that I have a sense of humor. You got to develop a sense of humor when they take the tool away from you, because they didn't kill this. And so the ladies in my group, the old-time women, they bring their young newcomer girls over and introduce them to me because they know I've been neutered and there can't be any harm from me. And so we tell them that and we laugh about it. We laugh about it a lot because laughter is a healer. Then I got back to work and I had a pain in my belly and it seemed like the gallbladder had gone bad and it turned gangrene. They took it out and I lost my job again. I hated working. I'm an armed robber. I like fast money. Bunch is quick. Boom, run. And now I'm running around like an idiot just trying to get the opportunity to go to work. AA will mess up everything you've ever had if you're not careful. And then I got back to work last March. And I'm working full time and I'm in the union again. I'm back where I'm supposed to be. And I had this bronchial problem. I went in to see my doctor about this bronchial problem. I've had bronchitis ever since I can remember. He said, I don't believe you have a bronchial problem. I believe you have a heart problem. Now, I got to tell you, 5 years since I had my head crushed, my wife and I and our family have never recouped financially. It's just one hole after the other. But it ain't a big deal. I don't need no handouts. I don't need nothing given. It ain't a big deal. I have no fear, no insecurity about dealing with life without that. Because everything I've ever needed comes to me. And they took me in to do a carotid artery, if you know what that is. They're going to clean out an artery over here on the side of my neck. And they laid me down on the bed and they put all these other instruments and they did these other tests. And they come in and their doctor stood over me with my wife there and my 3 children not far away. And he says, I'm sorry. Now, you don't want to hear I'm sorry in a hospital. No more than you want to hear whoops. And what he told me was that I had the four major arteries in my heart were completely plugged, and he didn't know how I even got through that door. Didn't know how I got there. I do. I don't know why. I don't even care. But I do, because I have a God. I found a God underneath that car in my 25th year of sobriety. It was a spiritual experience. That God is not my steps. That God is not my sponsor. He's a reinforcement that I know that I'm safe in these rooms and around you and out there amongst them. No matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, as long as I'm sober and trying to do the right thing. Isn't that terribly gooey for a man that was my nature? And I'm doing just fine. I went back to work last Monday, 2 weeks ago Monday. Took 4 months. They held my job for me because they like me. And I'm over here in Century City. And my wife's scared to death. We're trying to work on this little instrument. You know, I know I'm running out of time. Jack's going to punish me. He's going to take at least 5 of my 30 years away. But it's okay. We're making a gallant effort to return myself to normal living in that other area. And every once in a while, my dear wife, patient as she is, would go through this event with me. And I don't know about you, but you wonder sometimes maybe what it is I've done in my life that would bring the people into it that have arrived, who are here giving me the love that they're giving me. The woman that has loved me now for 25 years. That's how long we've been together. I've been married for 15. The men that I sponsor, my friend Frank, who passed away. The people in my room that I walk with every day. I don't walk through there with all this great confidence I'll be sober forever. I loved hearing that tonight. I'm 30 years and 8 months and some change sober, and I am not convinced that I will stay sober forever. I am convinced that if I do everything today that I did yesterday and I did in 1972 when I started, the odds of my staying sober are much better. I'm sorry I took your extra time. Thank you for letting me share.